Dan, I'm going to head to the G8. A couple of global warming experts who are usually quite critical of the administration are now actually saying, wait a minute, there's a glimmer of hope on possible emission targets, that there's this thought that perhaps there's an exchange for the midterm and you'll get a deal on the sort of 2050 limits. Can you tell me how optimistic you are about a potential deal? And these guys were saying they were characterizing the G8 as a lame duck summit in terms of global warming issues, and now they're actually saying, wait a minute, there may be something here.
Well, I think when I read those quotes this morning, you could have knocked me over with a feather too, because the president gets absolutely no credit for all of that he has done here in our own country, because we have actually been able to reduce actual emissions from our country, even though our economy has grown over the past several years. But to the G8, let me just take you back one step. So in May of 2007, President Bush announces a new way forward on climate change, because for the past several years, ever since the Kyoto Protocol, we've been stuck in this situation where only 30% of the countries that emit were required to be a part of Kyoto. President Bush realized that, one, it would not solve the problem that we're trying to solve, which was to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions, but instead it would hurt our economy while emissions continue to go up overseas. It's just unworkable from his point of view. What he thinks is going to work is a real push on technologies for research and development, but also having everybody committed, especially the emerging economies such as India and China. So last May, before the G8, the president suggested a way that we could all work together to get the major economies of the world all at the same table and working towards the same goal. And that has held over the past year. The emerging economies are still at the table. We're talking now in terms of our challenge and how we are going to solve this. And the president laid out a way for us to try to work on both midterm and then a longer-term goal. We're optimistic that we can get there, but there's a lot of issues that have to be ferreted out. And one of them, if you just look at what happened, I think it was 3 weeks ago when Senator Boxer's bill was brought up for debate on the Senate floor. There was considerable debate on the Senate floor, and you also saw a lot of people finally coming forward and saying, we've got some real problems with how this might actually work in the practical sense. So that's not only happening in our capital, it's happening in all the other capitals as well. So while I say we're optimistic that we can maybe get something, I want to make sure it's very clear that these are difficult issues and we have made progress. I'm not saying that we're going to be able to come out of there with a signed deal out of the G8. That was never the purpose of this point of the process anyway. We hope to get something done by the end of this year so that the major economies could feed into the UN process, which is going to take place next year.
But the idea of a binding multilateral deal, treaty, is the administration philosophically opposed to that?
Well, no, because that's what the president proposed last May, and that's what we've been working towards. And we think we've made some good progress. But the key to this, and actually I think other nations agree with this now, that we have to have the developing nations at the table, all rowing in the same direction, or else we're not going to solve the problem, and we're going to hurt people's economies. And you can't have research and development dollars going into helping find the new technologies if all the economies are slumping.
But does it need to be one size fits all?
Absolutely not, and that's one of the keys, and that's one of the reasons that this is working. When he announced it last May, one of the things he said is each country is going to do this in a different way. Everybody has a different fuel mix, they have different constituencies, they have different economies that run on different types of fuels, and they produce different types of things. So each country is going to have to come up with its own plan in order to get to both a midterm and then that aspirational longer-term goal. But the midterm goal is one of the most important because it gets people to commit to actions right now, and that's what we're working towards.